What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to part 2 of the tale of the ghost of the hidden leaf Naruto. What if you are enjoying this series, please for me like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. With that guys, Omni Sensei signing in. Three months later, Terumi May arrived home with exhaustion. Although her body had been bandaged, the blood that overflowed through it still stained her clothes. What's wrong with you? Why are you hurt so badly? Come, lie down and rest, I'll help you change the bandages, Razel said as he lay her down on the bed. After covering her with a quilt, he turned around and headed for the shower, took a basin of water, and came over to help May clean her face. What kind of civilian are you? She said hoarsely. You even know how to treat someone? Razel kept his face stoic as he continued to wipe off the blood. I grew in a slum of the bloody mist. It's the basic requirement for someone like me, yeah. It's tough for everyone, she said, and weakly closed her eyes, letting Razel wash her face. Let's go to the hospital, Razel said, and try picking her up. No medical ninjas are very scarce, and cannot receive too many patients. One less patient means one more gets to live another day. Razel's hands paused for the first time, and then he continued wiping the blood off her hands. His emotions could not be more complicated. Razel, I am tired, really tired. Things are getting worse and worse with Yagura. He is getting more and more restless. I don't think we will win against him. What do you think? When will it end? These words were just words for Razel, but for her these words meant everything. Razel felt a kind of unwillingness and longing from her words. I don't know, maybe someday, Razel said as he continued wiping the blood. Maybe you will be the one to finish it. Maybe someone else will. Maybe it won't end, May said as her eyes teared up. Help me take a shower, Razel nodded, and made her sit up as he helped her to the bathroom, while loosening her clothes knots. She can remove these clothes with just a simple touch now. He waited outside in case she fall inside, and she did. In an instant, exhaustion rushed in like a tide, causing her to fall asleep on the bathroom floor. A shower water keeps pouring on her. He ran inside and picked her naked body and brought her out. He put her down, while wiping her body with a wet towel, before putting some dry clothes on her. She barely smiles. You are quite a gentleman, she said in pain. Thank you. A week later after Terumi May left, Razel also get up, walked to the gate, and looked at Terumi May's departure figure. After confirming that she really left, he took out a small note from his arms. Yen. After his call, a Goshik suddenly swooped down and landed on Razel's shoulder. Go. Bring this information to Konoha, Razel said as he rolled up the paper and bind it into its claws, and then threw the Goshik away. The Goshik disappeared into the sky. Razel nodded and went back to the house. Wake up, he said to no one in particular, and the guard assigned by May right outside the house to watch over Razel suddenly jolts awake. What happened? Did I doze off? Sigh. He does nothing all day long. It's so boring. No wonder I doze off, the Kiri shinobi muttered in frustration. Your task today is to attract the pirates, so that we can steal their food, understand? Walking on the road, Terumi May deliberately slowed down, so that Razel could keep up. Why are we doing this again? Razel asked hesitantly, really afraid of getting involved in this. May looked at Razel shivering from fear. I am being investigated by the higher-ups. How else do you think we can get enough food? I don't know. How about go and steal from Mizukage? Or maybe steal from somewhere else? She rolled her eyes. And how do I do that? I am not a censor. Mizukage's men will ambush me really fast. And I am not gonna steal food from my own people. They are innocent. Then why don't you use that technique where you ninjas transform into others, and then attract those pirates yourself? It's called transformation technique, and I can't do that because a shinobi was spotted among the pirates time and time again. He might see through my disguise. Razel didn't say anything but gritted his teeth. His eyes were full of fear and emotions. She sighed. If you are this afraid, then we can. I will do it. Even if I am a waste, I know that in this cruel village, no one would be willing to adopt a useless waste. I have to stand on my own, he said and kept moving. She smiled a bit and nodded her head. This is how the world works. I am happy you understand that, he asked, looking at her. Stealing from the weak. Does that makes you strong? She nodded. That's right, because they are weak, we are going to kill them so that we can live. We wouldn't have taken the risk if these pirates were strong. She stared at him. This is how strong. Feast on weak. An hour later, the two arrived at their destination, at the end of the island where boats travel. She looked here and there. Listen, go with the merchants on the ship, even if you have a dense and great amount of chakra. It's not active. If their shinobi comes in person, they will immediately figure out that you are a civilian. If that shinobi does not come, you just need to be afraid, and they will still identify you as civilian. She gave him a money pouch. Travel on that ship. If they do not attack the merchant ship within a week, we will do something else. Razel nodded. Here, this is all our money. If you can't attract the pirates, we might have to starve. so do not lose it. Wait, what? She was gone, leaving him alone on the edge of the island. May from her hiding place looked at Razel. She narrowed her eyes. Is he really not a spy? Was I wrong? She muttered. The man I placed to watch over him also came up with nothing tilde tilde KONOHA tilde tilde in the Hokage building. Danzo and the third Hokage sit while reading the message that arrived only a few hours ago. Why would Mizukage kill his own people? Danzo asked as he put down the teacup on the table. Hokage sighed as he leaned on his chair. I don't know, hun. Danzo picked the teacup again as he sipped the tea. Say, Danzo, have you ever seen Ghost's face? His true face, I mean. Danzo shook his head. Not since he turned into Ghost. It's been years now. Why? Hokage shook his head. No reason. I just had a thought. After talking a bit, he sent Danzo out, preparing to work once again. Elder Hamura came inside. Hiruzen, what's wrong with my grandson? It's been a long time, and let alone getting better. He is getting worse as the days go by. The third Hokage calmed Elder Hamura down. Trust the doctors, alright. They are far better in this department than us. If you are not satisfied with the treatment, how about we increase the medical budget? Hamura nodded immediately. This is concerning to his grandson's feeble life. How could he not agree? Hokage nodded but stopped and frowned. We don't have enough money to spare. What do you mean? Hokage sighed. I mean, we are really tight on budget. How could we afford an increase in the budget? I can make it happen, Hamura said. Really? How? I can just give the money I invest en route to the hospital. But what about Danzo and Hiruzen? This is not the time to be indecisive. I will talk to those two. Just make sure my grandkid gets the best of the treatment. Hokage could only nod under Elder Hamura's extensive persuasion. Elder Hamura has never been a broad-minded person anyway. According to him, giving money that he gives to Danzo for operating route at the hospital for his grandchild is no big deal. Once his grandchild is back on his feet again, he could always cut off his money supply and give it back to Danzo. After sending Hamura out, Hokage looked at the door with a sigh. Tilde tilde 5 days later tilde tilde for the full 5 days. Razel full-fledged become a merchant under the watchful eyes of Mai Terumi. Even though he was a rookie and barely sell anything, he achieved the effect they wanted. As he spent an extravagant amount of money these 5 days, it attracted the eyes of the kind of people one should not attract. It wouldn't be long before he was attacked with the intention of rob. On the 6th day, Razel boarded the ship along with the rest of the civilians. Mostly merchants like Razel. But today was a bit different. Today, pirates drawn by Razel decided to attack and plunder. It was great timing because this was all the savings they were spending. If the pirates did not come today, May and Razel would really have had to steal from the civilians if they wanted something to eat. Snap, snap. 2 loud noises. Razel and the merchant ship slammed into a pirate ship. Here they come. Mai Terumi watched everything fold before her eyes from under the water. Under a furious assault, the mast of the merchant ship fell down, damaging the ship's hull, making it unable to advance further. The pirates threw some ropes and boarded the merchant ship. The pirates in black were very energetic. They howled in face of the easy battle. In an instant, swords and weapons were flying across the merchant ship. The hull of the ship was deeply dented, covered in the blood of innocent. They yell and the shouts of help ring out. These shouts weren't from the merchants though. What's the matter? What's happening soon? The pirates were frightened. They were shocked to discover that the opponent who had suddenly appeared out of nowhere was unimaginably powerful. She was like a god of war, punching and hitting their pirate crew to death. Water style. Water ball jutsu. She dodged the incoming water ball coming at her as she looked at the man who threw that. Mai Terumi, the princess herself, came to greet us. What an honor. The bandit shinobi laughed. I am going to enjoy bedding you. The bandit shinobi said with lust in his eyes. May smirked as she flicked her hair out of her face. You are too ugly for that. In mere few minutes, bandits fall one after another. The injured and immobile pirate shinobi watched his companions falling in a pool of blood one after another before his eyes dim away. May kills the pirates like a beast. Her jutsu ripped through the air, and screams followed afterward. The blood and flesh flow in different directions. The pirates were terrified and scrambled enough to jump off the ship. Evil pirates, why are you running? Huh! Weren't you oh so mighty just now? Razel yelled, appearing out of nowhere. May looked at Razel and shook her head. Enough. Where were you hiding all this time? I didn't see you for so long, May said. Razel pointed at the corner. There. I guess you were too busy with the battle that you didn't notice. She nodded. Let's go inside the cabin. We gotta find something. Razel nodded as he went inside with her. They searched and roamed everywhere, seizing nearly everything. Most important of them were a few wooden boxes. All the money is here, May said happily. Razel's eyes beam as they high-five. We are rich again, May yelled happily as they nearly robbed the entire pirate ship. Wait, what is this? May stopped seeing the paper on board. What is it? asked Razel. May growled. It's their dealings with Mizukage. This is how Mizukage forces were making so much money despite everything. She crumpled the paper and threw it aside. I am surprised that they didn't send someone to their protection even after knowing that we are going to rob them. I thought they were watching our every action. Something's wrong. Razel shivered with fear. Let's just get out of here. She shook her head. I am missing something. Please let's just get yes. Yes. Why are you such a coward? She disdainfully said as they walked away. Come to think of it, the shinobi that was following us for so long had their chakra disappeared all of a sudden. Why? Did they get what they wanted to see and went back to report Mizukage? Razel chuckled slightly as he made his way out with her. The next day, Mizukage read the secret scroll presented to him. He grits his teeth and threw the scroll away. That which apparently, yesterday, Meitarumi took away all the money that belonged to him. Kill the bandit shinobi he sent to protect those useless pirates. And somehow for some reasons unknown the guard he sent to watch over her disappeared in thin air. Definitely her doing. How could he not get angry? Half a month passed away quietly. Mei took Razel on simple missions from time to time. It was an easy and peaceful time. He likes spending time with her for some reason. She is an easy target to hang around with, he thought at that time. And then, on the 15th day of this month, the Kagaya clan was wiped out. It was so sudden that no one could figure anything out. Because of the scarcity of resources and clients, Kiri often devolves into various inter-clan conflicts. This is very common here, but the Kagaya clan waged war against Kiri to quench their lust for battle, but was slaughtered by the village's superior forces. This is the story everyone is told. How much is truth? How much is false is unknown. Before this, the entire Kiri was in favor of innocent bloodline users and against Mizukage. Mizukage was killing them before, but that was mild, and even if their death created some controversy, they were mere low-class citizens. What could they even do? Some people, including Meitarumi, hide them in the dark and protect them. That was it. Even Mizukage could not kill a huge clan like the Kagaya clan, just because he wants to. No one would stand by his side if he offend big clans. He will be killed instead. This accident changed everything. It turned into everyone having doubts about bloodline users' lethality. Mizukage is finally making big moves. Razel muttered as he sits in the backyard holding a flute. Kagaya clan was big and influential. They were not in threat of any kind. Why did they rebel? To quench their thrust of battle. On this day, things began to change. Everyone can feel the abnormality in the air, and the murderous intent has been solidified in this chilling area. What are you doing? Mei came behind him. He turns his head, just playing the flute. You know, she sighed, you are always playing this weird and eerie-looking flute in your hand. Whose is it anyway? It's so black. She tried to take it from his hand, but he snatched his hand back, not letting her touch the treasure flute. God knows she will die the moment she touches it. Even someone like Kishina-sensei with her near-endless chakra did not dare to touch it without countless protective seals on her body. It's just him who can play this evil thing without any problem because of his mutation and infinite chakra. I would prefer if you don't touch it, Razel said. Oh, getting possessive. Aren't you? Who is it that gave you the flute? Your girlfriend? She asked with a smirk. I have to say, the girls around the market are quite smitten by you. Did one of them give it to you? Razel just glared at her. Mei laughed. Wow, you are jealous? You really are. Oh, come on, tell me her name. She giggled again. I must say she has really bad taste. Who makes such an eerie-looking thing to give as a flute? It looks like a torture instrument that could kill someone with just its looks. Razel chuckled amusedly and twirled the flute around his fingers. It does look like that. And yeah, it is mine. It was given to me by the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my whole life. It is the only thing that kept me sane when I'm down. And just because you don't know how to play flute, don't be jealous of mine. Mei did not reply anything after hearing the whole story, and sat beside him, who said I could not play musical instruments. You even know how to play flutes? She chuckled. It's just playing a simple instrument. I know a lot more, she said as she made a flute on the spot using the wood from a tree in the garden. This is gonna be hard, since the sound will be hard to produce, she said as she played a single note. A beautiful melody filled the air, the sound of a flute that could change anyone's mood. He felt relaxed just listening to that tune. It sounds beautiful, just like an angel singing to the heavens, she chuckled as they talked about things unrelated. She likes spending time with him like this. It was peaceful. This is what she always dreamed of, a peaceful time with someone without any death and destruction. Let's talk about the girl. Who is it? Your girlfriend? She asked like some kind of a gossip girl. Just someone very important. She grew up on the streets like me. When I saw her, I could feel the strength that she had. It was amazing to watch her. She was an incredibly beautiful person, and she liked to play too. She looked at him confused. Why are you talking in the past tense? She died, Razel answered with a serious look. Mei remained silent after hearing the story. She didn't know how to react. Razel didn't care. He was used to it. Death was part of this world. And now, she is gone. She smiled. You ain't half bad yourself. In fact, I've never seen or heard of anyone who could play as well as you, she said, while giving him a light punch on his shoulder. Razel chuckled. This is all I could do. Some useless thing to impress the girls with, isn't it? She looked at him. That is not true. You might not be able to fight or use chakra, but any kind of skill is useful, especially for a street boy like you, she said with a serious face. He smiled and looked at the eerie flute again. Wanna play together? He asked her with a hopeful look. She nodded, sure. For several hours did they play a song together. The sound of his flute merged into hers. Their combined melody made a beautiful harmony. In this heaven-like country where the smell of blood prevails over everything and death looms at every corner, this is what May had longed for. The simple bliss that only music could bring. And the one who brought it to her is someone she can relate to. @NIGHT. After poisoning their food, Razel eats with her. During these past few months, he has been tasting her limits. Given his extreme level of knowledge of poison, he was sure that she will not wake up tonight. He waited for a long time, and only after making sure that May could not wake up. Razel sits in front of the bronze mirror. Taking the wet towel, he slowly wipes the makeup on his face, pulling out the fake skin on his face and hand, and removing the fake eyebrows and hair. He takes out the lens in the eyes that changed his eye color. He sits there, looking at his original face. In the mirror appeared a face that he sees so little. He sat there for a while, watching his face. His hand caressed his face in the mirror before he let go and put off a new set of hair. After a while, a new face appeared in the mirror with different eye colors, hair, and voice. Even Mai Terumi, with whom he has been living together for some time now, won't be able to identify him even if she speaks to him. His demeanor and his aura all changed into a cold-hearted assassin that roams at night. Pulling out the mask and a black robe, he takes out his infamous black sword with sheathing as he prepares for the night. Razel is a man with 100 names, 1,000 faces, and 10,000 lies. But there is only one name he terrorizes the entire world with: Ghost. He put on the mask, and his chakra disappeared thoroughly. Even the senses will not be able to find him. *RUMBLE** rumble. Heavy and grey clouds rolled into the sky, illuminating a loud clap of thunder every single minute. The sounds of raindrops hit the ground like miniature mortars onto tainted soil. Flashes of lightning danced across the sea of grey and black. If one looked up, he would say that it would be the song of hell reaching Earth's decrepit ears. However, even though the sounds of nature wreaked havoc upon the landscape, they could not be heard over the sounds of slaughter. Red fluid covered dirt as another body fell to the ground. A sword clattered to the ground, broken and lost in its useless prime. All around that body were several others, a pool of the same crimson illuminating them. A Kiri shinobi was trembling as sweat fell down his face. With a yell that seemed full of both fear and anger, he tried to charge at the figure that was walking slowly towards him. Ghost unhurriedly watched the charging shinobi, who lost his mentality. He was, as before, leisurely walking forward. The clinking sound of his sword being sheathed and unsheathed again and again follows his arrival. The Kiri shinobi's twin daggers began to glow with a black light. His speed was fast, very fast, as he vanished and reappeared to Ghost's side, his dagger stabbing towards Ghost's heart, and was only 10 or so centimeters away. Clink. Ghost's thumb sent the blades out and back again. This clink seemed to have stopped time for a moment. The Kiri shinobi was completely astonished. His dagger was about to stab into his opponent's heart, but he was the one dying instead. So fast, that was the last thought in the Kiri shinobi's head. His neck was sliced off, blood covered his neck as his body fell right there. He hadn't even seen what happened. He just died. Ghost keeps moving forward, playing with his swords as if fiddling with a lighter. Clink clink. You sure know how to cause a ruckus, responded a voice in the far-off distance. You should stop killing so much for nothing. Ghost's head turned around, looking over his shoulder at the source of the voice. And you should keep your chakra hidden, he replied kindly. Or at least try to. The voice soon turned into a figure, and then a full form was recognizable. Why? The so-called best sensor in the world would sense me, even if I tried to hide it. The figure shrugged. Why should I even bother? Brown hair, seemingly uncolored eyes, a slim and muscular figure. The majestic robe billowed in the winds of the day. The two stand silently before the figure speaks up. I won't ask how did you get here. It must be a cakewalk for someone like you. I just want to know why you are here. Ghost of Konoha, I was out looking at the nature of the world, Ghost replied. And you came here for that? Infiltrating Kiri in the dead of the night, stealthily walking, and killing so many for that reason. You must be out of your mind if you think I would believe something like that. Ghost shrugged. You are so smart. The Kiri shinobi's mouth twitches as with a poof of smoke, a long katana appeared in his hand. Ghost of Konoha, a sword-wielding freak and the very incarnation of terror and death itself. The Kiri shinobi muttered with a smirk. It is said that there is nothing you can't do. No matter the task, as long as Konoha has Ghost, they can never go down. I think you are just overly hyped. Allow me to demonstrate how truly strong ones fight, okay? Ghost didn't move an inch as the Kiri shinobi charged towards him. The sword in the Kiri shinobi's hands was glowing with the blue chakra that emanates from his arms. Ghost just stood there, unmoving as the destructive sword just phased through his figure. The attack didn't even enter his eyesight. Impressive, Ghost spoke with sarcasm. I didn't know someone could be this slow and simple-minded. Say, how are you even alive? Kiri shinobi blinked and grit his teeth as he jumped back to create some distance between the two. I will kill you. I will destroy you. His eyes were filled with a strange emotion now, almost as if he had become a different person altogether. Ghost rolled his eyes. That's why we are hired killers, Dumbus. We kill, he said. The Kiri shinobi swing his sword down, and the flash from the sword blinded the entire area as the chakra spread into a beam of energy. Ghost, who was standing not far away, felt a slight pressure from the chakra attack. This is not how you use the extended chakra attack, doofus. Allow me. Ghost sighed as his chakra instantly turned into an invincible blade, turning into a catastrophic all-crushing wave. The sword aura destroyed everyone and everything within its range. Everything was annihilated in one strike. And then the sword dissipated. The massive wave of energy vanished just like that, leaving behind only an eerie silence. The Kiri shinobi had vanished without a trace. There was nothing left on the ground, not even a speck of dust. It only took 5 seconds for the entire thing between the two. Ghost glanced sideways. The backup is arriving. When 20 shinobis came to the scene, they saw nothing. No bodies, no bloody ground, no marks of jutsu used, no sign of fighting. There is not even a smell of blood in the air around them. There is no way in hell a fight occurred here. Are you sure sensors sensed something in this area? Yes, sir. Search for clues. Increase the patrol around the area as well. See if you can find anything or anyone suspicious. Hi, today was the night of the massacre. Mizukichi prepared the groundwork for this for a long time. Jugo clan was his next target, so when he knew someone initiated the fight, he sent everyone with him to the site where the fight happened. While he went to the Jugo clan without a single person along with him, boom, a big blast took place, and Ghost appeared near Jugo clan territory where the big attack is happening. Stepping on the tree branch, he decided to watch the battle and figure things out. If he tried, he could save them. But why should he do that? Jugo clan has nothing to do with him. They can die for all he cares. Jugo clan's entire territory was destroyed by one attack of Mizukichi. The flames were red and illuminated the surroundings. Jugo clan members turned into charred and mutilated corpses lying on the ground. Patriarch. No. One of them yelled their patriarch. The one man who protected them from everything, and the man who had a strength of cage level, was actually killed by Mizukichi in one-on-one battle. So weak, Yugura muttered as he turned his gaze to the other members of the Jugo clan. In front of this mighty beast, no one was able to resist. Blood was spilled, and many people were killed. Run. Run now. Why are you doing this? We were always loyal to Mizukichi, and the village. Yugura coldly looked at them. Who do you think you are fooling? Following Kagaya clan, Jugo clan waged war against Kiri under their uncontrollable rage. But thankfully I was able to foretell the rebels. What are you? How dare you attack Kurigaka? You should have thought about the consequences before doing this, Mizukichi said calmly before releasing his killing intent to the maximum. Don't look back, run as far as you can. Someone yelled. He has gone crazy, protect the children. The men of the Jugo clan shouted loudly. Their eyes were full of determination. They want to use their bodies to open up a path of life for their women and children. It's too late. You should have thought of this before your little coup. Yugura's hands formed seals in a blur. Dare you to touch my woman and kid? Their eyes were practically flaming with anger and determination. Ghost watched this battle standing on a tree branch far away from this one-man massacre. His chakra is perfectly hidden under some impeccable chakra control. But what baffled him was something else entirely. His senses are very sensitive. The moment he entered in range, he could very well sense the chakra coming out of the fourth Mizukichi's body. Strange. This chakra, I am sure it's his chakra. Obito Uchiha. But isn't he dead? The fourth and his students themselves confirmed that. Were they lying? No, not possible. Ghost frowned. So if they were not lying, then the chakra I am feeling must be false. Someone good enough to mislead even me. Ghost muttered, shocked. The men of the Jugo clan rushed towards Yugura, trying to interrupt and occupy him. However, the three tails automatically came out, surrounding him in red boiling chakra, blocking all the attacks, even the surprise attacks. There was no way to break through and injure Yugura. All the traitors are to be executed, Yugura said while walking forward. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. It's the same chakra from that night. Yes, there is no doubt about it. It's the same chakra that controlled Kyuubi that night. Ghost watches the massacre with questions. There is no one in this world that can mislead me. But then Obito, water style, water wave jutsu. Yugura slammed the earth, and a huge water wave breaks free, tearing the ground while drowning everyone and everything in front of him. They couldn't do anything. The water is sealing their chakra. Every woman and every child of the Jugo clan was drowned in the water wave, unable to breathe. The wave was extremely fierce, rumbling and smashing all the houses along the way. Coral Palm. However, looking at these traitors, Yagura didn't show the slightest pity on his face as he slammed the water's surface. A thick layer of coral suddenly grew on the bodies of the people under the wave, like mushrooms growing beside the deadwood, quickly assimilating everyone into corals. This is Yagura's famous Coral Palm, which completely transforms the human body into coral, leaving no corpse to die. He is strong, one of the Jugo clan members said as he manages to attack again. I came in here in search of clues regarding Akatsuki among other things. Is this somehow related to this word? Ghost was even more confused than ever before. Water style. Water Dragon Bomb. Yagura continued to release ninjutsu, arbitrarily destroying the resistance and the will of the entire Jugo clan, turning this once brightly lit place into pieces of ruins. The screams of women and children, and the innocent crying of the children all added a miserable color to this genocide war. Watching an orange-haired kid who was desperately trying to hang on to his life, Ghost sighed. His eyes were complicated as he gently and slightly released his chakra. And Mizukage, who was about to bore down on the kid, stopped moving before he jumped back to avoid whatever danger he felt. By the time he landed on the ground, the kid was gone already. Mizukage watches the kid just disappearing in the heat of battle with astonishment. What the ghost carried the child in his arms, and left him at the location where he sensed Orochimaru. He also could very well sense that there is another kid with him, a Kagaya clan kid. Having another kid shouldn't be a problem. Whether these kids could survive under Orochimaru or not is their fate. The next day, the news that the Jugo clan's extermination spread throughout the Kiri. Blinded by their rage, they waged war against Kiri, but were beaten and killed overnight. No one thought that a clan as noble as the Jugo clan would be destroyed. No, it was a massacre. When other people were shocked by Mizukage's decisiveness and cruelty, but frightened by the prestige of the fourth Mizukage, no one dared to create trouble in a short time. The big clans that always fight with each other for the smallest of things did not utter a word. Yagura asserted the dominance of Mizukage, and the village of Kurigaka fell into peace. People also begin to understand that with powers come drawbacks, and bloodline users are dangerous. Maybe Mizukage was right all along. Maybe it's better for them to die. In the midst of it, Razel sits in Mei's house, watching himself in the mirror. He knew he made a critical error in his last assignment. He wears a mask, he lies to people, he uses them and then kills them. His heart is made of stone. Then why the hell did he save a kid unrelated to him? He saved someone yesterday. Someone who was right in front of Mizukage, the Jinchuruki of the Three Tails itself. He knew Mizukage will figure this out. He gave away his identity, a mistake he never made in his entire life. I am an assassin, a killer that walks in the darkest of nights. I don't have emotions, then why? Why did I save someone at the risk of my identity? Mei came from outside. Why are you sitting there like that? His cold exterior instantly disappeared as he squeezed a smile. Nothing? I was thinking of something. You should go change. I will prepare a dinner. She was confused, but still nodded and went inside her room, thinking nothing much of the problem. Razel's eyes followed her. They will soon start investigating this, and as the teen who appears next to her out of nowhere will be their first target. I don't have much time left before my identity is figured out. Yet, there are more questions than answers. Not long after she returned to her room, Mei Terumi's mind became somewhat dizzy and heavy. She was not sure if it was because she had caught a cold. Thinking of having a warm bath quickly, she removed her clothes and entered the bathroom. After sitting in the warm water for less than a minute, Mei closed her eyes. She was dazed and began to feel sleepy. But no matter what, she could not sleep comfortably. She wanted to wake up, yet she could not. She felt like she was being tossed between the cold and heat. One moment her body felt like it was being buried in snow. The next she felt like she was being cooked in a pot. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. She tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids were heavy to the point where she could not lift them. A pitch-black dream appeared in her mind mercilessly. She dreamed of killing innocents. She dreamed that she made a deep cut on a pregnant woman's wrist, and blood would not stop flowing out of it. She was 5 back then. In her dream, she watched an old man that lay weakly in a hospital bed, that smelled strongly of disinfectant. That old man was dying because she used and killed him. He treated her as his granddaughter. The scene changed once more. She suddenly ran like mad, but was unable to hold onto the corner of a bloody dress. She saw her teammate, her best friend's blood-covered body dying like a dog, her eyes staring up at the bird that flew past. Even in her death, her eyes were not closed. That dark past, why would it still enter her dreams? She wanted to wake up. She did not want to relive the nightmares of her past. The dark scenes kept changing. She was caught and captured by our shinobis in the Third World War. They did not kill her because of her body. They wanted to p her. She could only use a knife to hurt her face and body. It was painful. Every day, her scar-covered face and body prevented them from doing anything. Instead, over and over again she was cruelly hurt and tortured for information. Her Her disfigured face and body that were filled with scars could not heal. 5 years later, she met traveling gambler Tsunade and her disciple, little Shizune, who was only slightly older than a mere toddler. Tsunade's skills were out of this world. She managed to completely heal Mei, something that others could not do despite trying their all. This dream felt as long as last 10 years. No. Wake up. Hurry and wake up. That war went on for more than 7 years. During the war, Mei lost everything, including her friends and family. All she wanted was for someone to hug her and tell her that everything is alright, that they are there for her. No one does. Razel, who was making food in the kitchen, suddenly jolted. He is extremely sensitive to chakra and emotions, and his senses pick up the negative emotions from the bathroom pretty quickly. He stopped cooking and blurred out of existence. Despite losing everything, she not only got her face and body back, but she also became an incredibly powerful shinobi in these 10 years. Someone that could fight Ghost toe-to-toe for a bit and still managed to live and escape from him, despite him not targeting her particularly. Mei struggled bitterly in her dreams, but was unable to escape the vortex in the dark. She suddenly heard the sound of a door being crashed open. A cool hand gently pressed against her head. Why the hell did someone like her have a fever? A cold and calm voice traveled past her ears. It was only then that Mei awoke violently from her dreams. She opened her eyes with some effort and was instantly carried out of the tub by someone. She was somewhat confused, unaware of where she was. She was not even conscious of the fact that she was naked. Her snow-white skin, thin and long legs, the snowy soft of her chest, and even her seaweed-like wet silky hair were all shown to him. Due to the boiling heat of her body that was beyond his expectations, Mei instinctively leaned her head in his embrace, closing her eyes in pain. Those nightmares no longer showed up. She released her breath but felt something warm wanting to flood out of her eyes. Thank God it was all in the past. She was embraced by someone. It was warm. It was what she yearned for, an embrace that belonged only to her. That says that everything is alright, that they are there. She wanted to cry so hard. For her family, for her best friend, for all that she suffered. She held in the tears and pressed her head in his embrace. Razel sent a clone to get the medicine. Here, the clone blurred, and get the medicine for her as soon as possible. Mei was placed on the bed. She subconsciously grabbed onto the sleeve of his t-shirt. Even if she was weak to the point of having no strength, she still weakly wanted to hold on to that embrace. Razel saw her action and did not leave. He moved to hold her hand. Don't be scared. I'm here. She weakly opened her eyes only to see his face. Her eyes were somewhat red as she saw someone holding her. Before she closed them again, the clone went to get the towel for him as he wiped her wet body before changing the bedding. He wanted to change her clothes and put her on the bed before going out, but she continued to hold him. He sighed. Mizukage TOWER Mizukage sits with his trusted advisors, the heads of various departments, and the Elder Council. That includes today's meeting. Is there anything else you guys wish to report? No sir, everyone answered. What about the disturbance sensors felt yesterday? Mizukage-sama. When my people arrived at the place there was nothing out of the ordinary, let alone signs of a fight. There wasn't even smell of blood in the air, one of them answered. And you didn't think it was worth telling me? Sir, it was just a false alarm, nothing else. Have you searched around? Yes, sir. They found nothing, the Kiri shinobi answered. What about the sensors under you? Did they make a mistake? The elder asked in between. When I have been informed of it, I confirmed it with the sensors. They definitely sensed something, but it just disappeared, another answered. Yugwara closed his eyes and opened calmly. There is something else. Yesterday, when I was confronting the Jugo clan, there was someone else there. I could not see anyone or anything at that time. It was very fast. But they just took the Jugo clan kid and disappeared. So someone breached to save a Jugo clan's trader. The elder asked. Yugura nodded as he opened his eyes again. There is a good possibility for that. What do we do, Mizukage-sama? Whoever it is, they knew what they were doing. They destroyed everything related to them. Sensors sensed something. There was nothing. A shinobi searched for clues. There was none. They even thought of deleting the smell. If it wasn't for them saving the Jugo clan member, I might very well think of it as a mistake from our sensors. Everyone nodded. Doesn't this remind you of someone? He looked at everyone. Ghost. Someone else interrupted and realization struck everyone. But why would he infiltrate Kurigaka? One of the elders asked. There is something I am also not getting. He is quite a notorious assassin. He kills without any hesitation or mercy. Why did someone like him would save a Jugo clan member and risk away his identity? Another asked. Maybe he is trying to recruit them to invade Kiri. Someone chuckled at that. If you can think something like that, then you never really fought the man. He does not need to recruit the kid. He alone is terrifying enough, to say the least enough. Yugura stood up from his chair and looked out from his window. We are not sure if it's actually Ghost who infiltrated here. It might be someone else. He stopped as he looked at everyone. People don't just vanish out of thin air. Search for people who disappeared last night. Since there was a possibility of a fight, focus on the shinobis. Forget the genins and get the chunins and higher ranks. and I want the details of the boy that always stuck with Mei Terumi these days. Hi, everyone bowed. Dismiss, that boy. The elder said after everyone went out. Yagura nodded. You remember the time when Mei Terumi's personal shadow tried to assassinate me, but was defeated in the end? Yes. Furo died trying to catch Mei's guard. I had my doubts since then. Furo was not someone who could be easily killed. At least I don't think her personal shadow could do this. What does it have to do with that boy? Do you remember Ghostface? Mizukage replied. The elder thought for a moment. During the Third War, a few times his mask was destroyed for some reason or another, and his face was out in the open. But the face was different every time it came out. Yagura nodded. That's right, it's different every time it comes out. It cannot be a transformation technique, or someone would have noticed. He is a man that wears 1,000 faces, and one of them might be that boy. Yagura stared at the elder. I was told he is very good at seducing women, and the fact that strange things are happening around Mei also raises questions. I might be wrong, but it's never too late to be cautious. The elder nodded, and after talking a bit more, he too went out, leaving Yagura alone in the tower with his shadow guards. Yagura sits on the chair of Mizukage, leaning on it and closing his eyes. Why did he save a Jugo clan member? That too, at the cost of endangering his identity. Why? Was it really Ghost? The next morning, Mei Terumi woke up at 9 a.m. She pressed her hand against her forehead. It seems like her fever had already reduced, but the symptoms of a cold were still around. She sat up, pushing aside the blanket. Just as she was about to get off the bed, she became surprised, lowering her head to stare at her own body. She wore nothing under the blanket. This what happened? Where are all my clothes? She muttered in confusion. Wait, she was about to get up when she remembered something. I think I held him the entire night. We didn't sleep together, did we? She muttered in shock and with a redder face. The plate clinked with the spoon as both Razel and Mei eat their breakfast in awkward silence. Neither brought up the topic of yesterday, about last night. We didn't sleep together, did we? Mei asked after a long while. No, Razel replied, his voice colder for some reason. So today morning, I was naked. You were sick, and I had to take care of you. It was an emergency. Please try to understand. Her face blushed red. Oh, it's all right, Mei said as she stood with her plate to wash it. Then since I don't have a fever anymore, do you want anything from me? Consider it as my thank you for taking care of me last night. No, Razel said as he too picked up his plate and bring it to wash it. He has been manipulating and playing with people's emotions for countless years. Coupled with his own senses, he can very easily tell when someone feels for him. And he could easily see that her eyes are getting softer toward him. She is developing feelings she must not develop. He is not a person to fall in love with. The moment they finished washing the dishes, Mei went outside on her balcony. Razel saw Mei's back while she walked to the edge of the balcony. Hey, Mei turned around and looked at Razel. You look colder. Did something happen yesterday? She asked. He smiled at her. I am just a bit tired today. I had to take care of you the entire night. After all, mind if I go rest instead? Yeah, sure, Mei smiled back. Just make sure you are well rested tomorrow. Yeah, Razel nodded and left for his room. Mei smiled wryly as she gazed at the horizon again. As soon as Razel entered his room, he closed the door as his face turned angry before dropping onto the bed. For the first time in his entire life, he felt something the previous night. Women are the last thing that could affect him, and yet the first thing that popped into Razel's mind after she woke up this morning was to go to see her. Damn it, he cursed. I should have just killed her in the first place, and gone with my original plan. He began to think back at everything that happened yesterday. Her face, his desire to softly kiss her. Closing his eyes, he opened them again. This time they were firm. There is no time to waste on her more than he already did. He wasted the entire day, and once the night arrived, he reached out his hand for the lamp. The light switched off, and the room fell into darkness, with only the light of moonlight coming out of the window. The shadows and darkness faded away to the walls as his figure blurred into thin air. Ghost stood at the top of the tree branch, with a body lying beside him. This was the shinobi laid by Mei to keep an eye out on Razel for security and other purposes. He left the body lying there as he jumped from the tree branch. There is no need to hide anymore. In less than a minute, he was standing at the tallest building in the village with a mask on. His hood was up while holding a black longsword in a sheath. Drenching in rain, he watches the dark streets of the village hidden in the mist. Clink using his thumb, he pushed his sword out of its sheath before putting it back. The stars shine above the cold lands of the village hidden in the mist. Clink, playing with his sword, Ghost, without any resistance, went past the sleeping guards who were put in a sound-based genjutsu. With his sensory abilities, he scanned the entire area in a moment as he kept walking forward. His movements were completely silent, covertly walking through the building and finding the office of Yagura. The guards simply went to sleep without even noticing. Touching a blank section of the desk, he watches as a large shelf rises up and revealed a hidden compartment with several scrolls and other important items tucked away inside. Ghost showed no emotion as he searched the large shelf for the valuable intel he was here to get. After a while, He found what he came here for, a scroll that contained the secret codes. That was amazing. Despite such tight security, no one ever saw you coming. Ghost turned back to see Yagura walking at him with a smile. Such excellent stealth. What does Konoha feed you to get so good? I eat whatever is available. Usually, I prefer barbecue from Akamichi's restaurant. They are really good, Ghost said while shrugging. Yagura chuckled as he sat on Mizuki's chair, indicating Ghost to sit on the other one. You don't sound surprised seeing me here. At least try to act like you are surprised. It hurts my feelings, you know. Ghost just sits on the chair without talking. That's why I love sensors, especially someone as good as you. Nothing could surprise you, right? He asked with a grin. Wanna know how I know you were coming here tonight? I bet I will surprise you. Not really. I saved Jugo Clan's kid in front of you. You sent your men to figure things out. Basic stuff. Actually, Yagura was quite impressed by the man sitting in front of him. Chuckling, he asked, how did you find that secret location in my office? Ghost shrugged. Simple information gathering works. Yagura nodded. Right? There is something I am not understanding though. Why did you save the Jugo Clan kid? Just a moment of weakness, enough from my side. Let's talk about you instead. Who are you? And how are you related to Akatsuki? Yagura stiffened. What are you talking about? If that's all it takes to frighten you, then I guess the answer is simple, Ghost replied in a monotonous voice. I am right, you are related to Akatsuki. Yagura just sat there quietly with a blank stare. The look in his eyes had changed completely. The one talking right now was Uchiha Obito, impressive Ghost of Konoha. Ghost didn't even bother to look at the shadow that was already on his face. He landed a direct attack on Ghost's face, piercing through Ghost's thick skull. As he believed he had already won. This is the rumored ghost that everyone fears. Too easy, the masked Embu said as he chuckled. Wait, what? The masked Embu said as he attempted to remove his arm. An Earth-style clone. The clone slowly reformed around his arm, neutralizing his lightning-style jutsu. The masked Embu was stuck and trapped. Guk. The Embu threw blood from his mouth as he looked down to see a bloody hand coming out of his chest while holding his bloody heart. He lost consciousness as he fell and died right there. Ghost threw the bloody heart to the side and blurred out of the sight. Thank you for the intel, Mizuki-sama, were his last words before his presence totally disappeared. Yagura smirked. Who do you think is better? Him or you guys? We will prove our worth. Mizuki-sama, said Suna, one of the greatest Kyrie has to offer. Kill him. If you can hide, said the one beside Suna. Senka, who was not just his partner, but also his friend. The night rolled over, bringing a threat of a storm. If there was barely any light, it was covered by the rapidly falling night. Shimmering stars illuminated the moonless, jet-black sky. And in the village hidden in mist, what appeared to be a corpse lay on the ground in between a vast number of trees. Cold, the body was that of the assassin regarded as the most notorious assassin in the world, Ghost. He lay atop a pool of blood, his clothes torn, his hair scattered. Serving as evidence, a rather long blade coated in the same blood sat menially several feet away. A stream of rich red blood connecting its shadow to the pool of the man. The corpse appeared ideal. In reality, it was a clone manifested from the equilibrium of yin-yang chakra, fused with his mutated chakra, birthing what appeared to be true death. Even the greatest of senses could not defy the logic that presented itself. Only those with profound vision could estimate that all were present. Our target's body is laying over there. That's weird. He was untouchable during his fight in the Third War. How did he die? Who is strong enough to kill him in just a few minutes after he got out of Mizuki's tower? Senka said as he noticed the corpse of their target a few hundred feet away. He had been more looking for the chakra signature, thinking it as a ruse. Their opponent is a world-class sensor. He obviously sensed them coming after him. Maybe this is a trick. Caught up by the way that the wind blew, Suna's attention was not exactly directed at the situation at hand. In all honesty, he seemed to have been tired from all these killings. If there is someone who wishes for peace more than anyone, it's him. Senka suddenly knocked off of his train of thought. Suna glanced over at Senka. What we see is impossible. He is untouchable, let alone beatable. You know it. I know it as well. Suna sighed as he kept looking at the dead body. This is just a suicide mission. Senka grins. Indeed, while the decoy demanded the attention of the duo, it didn't affect their judgment of their opponent's strength. And soon, the true presence of Ghost greeted them. As the two had been looking forward, discussing amongst themselves, a hand emerged from underground, creeping from behind. Taking precaution and ensuring that the two were distracted in their conversation and preparing, the hand appeared mere centimeters away from Senka's left ankle. The hand was intangible and therefore insensible. The assassin had taken his time to plan such a sneak attack and ensured that neither of the two was looking downward at their feet, a plan which most might presumably conclude quite irrelevant given his limitless strength. But he is not known as Ghost for no reason. He is an assassin, a dark stalker who leaps from the shadows to ambush his unsuspecting prey. Fighting straightforwardly and honorably is a thing of samurais. He is not like that, he was never like that. And here he is, the frame of his fingers wrapping around Senka's ankle, prepared to become tangible. Coated in his mutated chakra, the hand became tangible, and in the very instant aimed to tear off Tsuna's left foot from ankle down. Senka wasn't the best sensor, but as the way of life goes, well, even he didn't know. It's human nature to be able to detect when things aren't feeling right, and in this instance, its true capabilities would be in full effect. In a sudden burst, out of nowhere, Senka felt his ankle being grappled upon. Through that instance of feeling, with an extremely small window of things to work with, Tsuna had only his specialty. As the unknown hand made contact with Senka, Ghost's movements became nothing. His entire body becomes immobilized. Gotcha. Senka grinned, and with a poof of smoke a spear appeared in his hand as he swung it directly at the person's wrist. Ghost's wrist froze the second it came into contact with Senka's ankle. The spear connected with Ghost's hand and then passed through, shocking both Tsuna and Senka. His hand might be frozen for a second, but not for long. Ghost broke free, allowing his hand to once again freely phase through the ground. With the initial attack, he disappeared from plain view, leaving the two alone in the darkness, the corpse several feet ahead untouched. This freak really is like a ghost. Tsuna nodded. Indeed. We are fighting a real thing, that's for sure. Do not let your guard down. Watch your back the whole time. Senka nodded. You don't need to tell me that. Tsuna's eyes darted everywhere he could see. There is a good chance that we won't survive today. It's been an honor fighting alongside you, my friend. Senka smirked, likewise applying chakra to his feet to glue them to the rooted ground beneath him. Tsuna stood perfectly still before using the chakra hardening technique to increase his own durability. He'd play the waiting game. Let's see what he would do next. Seeing as though his enemies had become perfectly still, Ghost surveyed the many fluctuations of chakra taking place within the man's body. An impressive degree of control, he had to admit. However, he was fighting a wrong opponent by pressing his hand against the sword beneath his feet. From underground, Ghost forced a barrier to arise on the surface itself. The cylinder, however, had not expanded nearly enough to cause any form of damage to Tsuna, though the top had manifested some sort of lid, negating any exit from anywhere. At the standstill of Tsuna, Senka had to smack himself mentally. Surely Tsuna should have known that standing still against a faceless ghost was not wise, even if Senka was there to act as his extra pair of eyes. In a flash, Tsuna found himself trapped within a barrier. His partner Senka was basically stripped away from him, but it wouldn't be for too long. Tsuna saw all that was happening and chose to be patient in his dealings with these techniques. Some random chakra thing beneath him, some fiery barrier around him. These were boring. He is far too capable to deal with these things. But his opponent is nothing to sneeze at. The man with 1,000 faces who never failed to kill those that dare to stand against him. But he should probably get out of this barrier now. A vast quantity of mist poured out of his body, obscuring himself and his chakra completely from view. Water release. Hidden mist jutsu. Only his voice could be heard in this thick mist. The barrier cracked under the strength of Tsuna's chakra onslaught. In a graceful moment of equilibrium, the top of the barrier appeared to crack open before crumbling into dust. One of his arms, however, reached downwards and formed a solid barrier between him and whatever is beneath him. He wasn't sure what it was, but he dared not risk it. He can't afford to make the slightest mistake against this man. He had to be ready for any counterplay. For a moment he saw a hand underneath his barrier, going back under the ground after the failed attack like some kind of a worm. Tsuna forced himself to look down below the barrier, but there was nothing. Even so, the ground below him trembled as if something was crawling on the other side, the very air itself being crushed by this ghostly figure's immense power. With a deep breath, Tsuna dared not to let his guard down even for a second. Senka, on the other hand, did not stop releasing a torrent of mist all across the area. His eyes could still easily see through it, though Tsuna might be at disadvantage. This mist was filled with chakra all around, and was too thick for anyone to even get a clear view. Other than those cheating eyes, Byakugan and Sharingan, none should have been able to see through it, and could only fight with their experience. But the problem is, their opponent was not just any sensor type. It was the closest balance Senka could get, and hopefully it'd force their little worm out of the ground. In this havoc of the mist, a clone surfaced from the ground. Ghost chose to finally reveal himself, or rather, his clone chose to reveal itself. The clone stood in the contents of the mist, his hands met one another, brilliantly applauding the work of the fearsome couple. Well done indeed, came the voice of Ghost through the mist. The clone made no further movements. I must commend the efforts of Mizuki's best team. The two of you have certainly piqued my interest. The air around the clone shimmered, becoming an illusion, making it hard to tell what was real and what was fake. Senka had his spear ready. Bring his hands near his mouth, he whistled, and in that instance, the area began to fill itself into a thicker and suffocating mist. Tsuna wasn't far from Senka in the first place, and from basic knowledge, he wordlessly scooted himself closer to Senka, covering Senka's back. Or more so, Senka covering his. Your voice and chakra are different from the time you were talking in Mizuki's tower. Every time I see you, I feel like I'm meeting a brand new person for the first time. Incredible indeed, Senka said. The clone didn't say anything but stood there, listening to his prey talking. Power isn't what makes a shinobi, it's how one carries themselves. A shinobi who can walk in front of you and still be hidden. Now that is a powerful man, Senka stated. he formulated an echoing effect. "You are truly a powerful man." Ghost of Konoha Sanka placed the metal blade portion of his spear on the ground. The clone standing before them just continued standing in his location. At a moment's notice, all was too quiet. Much too quiet. The customary tactic of Kurigaka shinobi. However, what awaited the duo was quite a performance. Ghost's true prowess and sheer speed are not something that can be described in mere words. No shinobi, no matter how powerful or capable, was unable to prevail against him till now. They might be good enough to run away, but they can never hope to survive against him if he is out there for a kill. Without raising so much as a hand sign, Ghost stood firm. He offered his persecutors nothing, showing no mercy without any intention of letting them escape. He would surely take their lives without warning. Clink. He pushed his sword out using his thumb. The clinking sound in this mist made it seem more frightening. At that instant, he takes one single step forward, while drawing his sword at that exact moment out of the hilt. Before returning it to the hilt, the very instant the technique is completed, Sanka's head fell, rolling on the ground, severing the many ties it had with the rest of his body, and therefore killing him in an instant. Suna looked stunned for a moment as his partner was killed in the blink of an eye. He was right there to protect his back, yet sensing the presence of something on his back, Suna quickly turned his head to look at his back. He saw the shadow of a figure behind him standing there staring at him. Sanka was quick to move, his movements were fast and steady. As he jumps to avoid Ghost's bloody range, however, Ghost still didn't move. His eyes glanced at Suna, and his clone detonated randomly, not only frightening Suna, but also pushing him into a near-death situation. The blast was powerful, enough to completely nullify the precaution he had taken earlier of increasing his own durability. Whether or not he had survived the blast was in question as a large cloud of smoke began to override the mist. Damn it, he took precautions against Ghost's over-the-top speed and his beyond incredible Kenjutsu, making sure that he does not die like his partner. The explosion, however, was less expected. While he kept Ghost from coming into contact with him, it did nothing to stop the concussive force of the blast. The thing about the chakra hardening technique is that even though blades wouldn't penetrate the user's body with it active, it makes them heavy. In this case, with Suna being absolutely still in addition to his extreme chakra control, the amount of force required to move him was actually quite high. But despite what the people might think, the blunt force, even though useless against this particular use of this technique, was enough to move him around, and an explosion with no shrapnel is the very definition of blunt force. Instead of being blown to pieces, he was sent flying. After soaring nearly 30 meters away from the masked assassin, he finally released the technique. He created a water clone before splitting up with it, each releasing far more mist to obscure the area completely. He knew he had no chance against Ghost, no matter what area they compete in. This masked assassin is inhumanly fast. He is a monster in terms of skills. And he has that broken innate ability to absorb and negate ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and fuinjutsu. He is immune to poison. He is freaking immune to everything. This ability is something everyone saw in the Third World Shinobi War, ranging from Earth Release to Lightning Release to even KK Genkai. Nothing ever managed to touch him during the war. The only way to kill him is by using Taijutsu, and maybe using the chakra sealing chains might work too. Then again, for all these to work against him, Ghost has that Hack's ability of phasing, and his sheer mastery over that particular jutsu is utterly terrifying as well. Not to mention his other relevant skills that are enough to scare anyone alive. Trying to fight him is like fighting a god, an ultimate enemy. One might ask, why not surprise attack him with jutsu like Flying Thunder God? Attack him before he has a chance to react. But that technique was only known to a single man from Konoha who is now dead. Besides, that is easier said than done. You see, his sensing prowess is worse than the devil itself. His sensory prowess is something that makes it possible for him to never be surprised, allowing him to sense the attack before the attack even initiates, while giving him the free time to react even against techniques such as Flying Thunder God. He can very well block against the fastest of opponents fairly easily. The only way anyone could hope to stand a chance against him is by taking away his out-of-the-world sensory prowess, something that Suna deems impossible, but still gave it a try. At long last, the real body of Ghost had his hand arose from the depths of the ground, the scene reminiscent of the dead rising from their graves. A mask covering his identity, his physique hidden by a black hooded robe. As Ghost became fully tangible, and at that very moment, the entirety of the mist was broken into pure raw chakra and absorbed into his being. Why did he do so? It's because he has to know something from his soon-to-be dead prey. Something that he could only ask face to face. With no mist around, he stood firm, observing the other side of the battlefield, where a confident Suna stood in place. The corpse of his partner lying on the ground. The detonation Ghost had commanded earlier had caused Sanka's body to separate into several different pieces, his arms and legs flying everywhere. I can sense your fear. You knew it was a suicide mission, but you both still decided to take it. Why? Ghost asked Suna, staring at the man with no emotions. We do what we are told to do. Besides, what can I do? Let you destroy Kyrios per your pleasure. You even took Mei from me. You know Mei. Everyone knows her. but I have been with her since we were just kids. I always thought we would end up together, Ghost shrugged. That's why you mark your territory early. Well, that wouldn't have mattered anyway. Suna sighed. Yes, it wouldn't have mattered. If she was to fall in love with me, she would have fallen a long time ago. If I could make her fall in love with me, I would have done it ages back. I am not worthy enough for someone like her, but you are not worthy of her either. Ghost remained stoic under his mask. That's a touching speech. Ghost's chakra overflows like an infinite boundless stream of blades, bringing a catastrophic all-crushing aura with it. In mere moments, his body and the entire area around them are enveloped in pure raw chakra. His eyes, however, were as vacant as ever. You want her, but she doesn't want you. So what are you gonna do? Win her by force, or else die trying. That's it. What if I were to tell you that I am of the same age as you guys, yet I managed to seduce her in less than a year? That I could bed her anytime I want. How would you feel about it? At this very moment, the world began to shake as Ghost raised his sword horizontally while staring at Suna. The chakra around him rose to a dangerous level. You're pathetic, he said and waved his sword at Suna. A wave of pure energy brought destructive shockwaves towards Suna that easily destroys the surrounding area. Suna, against whom the shockwave was aimed, just growled and disappeared into a puff of smoke. Being a shadow clone all along, the place he was standing on just got obliterated from existence. The real Suna was directly behind Ghost, moving at full speed. I learned some tricks from Konoha Shinobis too. One of them is a useful technique that even full senses stepping right behind Ghost. He was about to unleash one of his kenjutsu straight between Ghost's shoulder blades, though he was extremely careful to leave a chakra barrier up using his tenketsu, so they wouldn't touch each other. This is the only thing he could do to hurt him. The blast is not made of chakra, but was just enhanced by his ability. In exchange for the blow, he would have to bear the pain of having his entire chakra blown away. But it has enough power to instantly kill even a person as strong as Ghost. And Ghost knew this as well. The sensory prowess allows Ghost to sense the battle in greater detail. The instant the clone was formed, Ghost's senses told him everything. The thing about senses is, they cannot be tricked. But there are some techniques that can even trick them. Shadow Clone Jutsu is one of them. That's why Byakugan and Sharingan are so busted, because they cannot be fooled like this, along with other things that come with those cheating eyes. But Ghost is different. His sensory prowess is beyond anything the world has ever seen. He sensed the attack before the attack was even initiated in the first place. He could choose to dodge the attack. He has the speed and skill to do so, but he chose not to do so. Ghost's clone raised from within the ground, rising a few inches from the ground, and immediately jumped in between the real body of Ghost and Suna, taking the blunt force of the damage. Ghost, who was behind the clone, raised his hand to form a single hand sign. The clone detonated in a far greater explosion than before. The previous explosion, which exploded some distance away, had managed great damage on Suna, not to mention kicking him back over 100 feet in distance. This attack would have blown him instead. However, this time, Suna had surfaced yet another barrier, which in reality was a reactive barrier activated by instinct. Such a barrier did not possess enough strength to survive the explosion. However, it was barely enough to protect Suna. But in the midst of the heated battle, Suna forgot about the corpse they found at the start of this battle. That clone that was manifested through the perfect balance of yin-yang energy. This detonation was unlike any other. A two-directional powerful blast combined with the exploding kenjutsu was sufficient to destroy a large portion of the forest itself, alerting the shinobis guarding the Kurigaka. The large-scale blast could be seen from miles, creating a mushroom cloud that invoked fear and suspicion within just about everyone who witnessed it. All that was left was a crater, symbolizing a great battle that had once taken place there. Shinobi would arrive soon from everywhere. However, as they took their sweet time getting there, Ghost still stood in place, having survived the detonation without even a scratch. Even his clothes didn't show any signs of being torn or burned in any way. Dust continued to clear as Ghost stood tall, staying behind to ensure his opponent knew something. The smoke finally cleared enough to seat Suna. Suna had managed to blunt the majority of the explosion, though it had taken nearly every inch of his chakra to do so. As the dust settled, he was still alive, albeit barely, but was laying at the bottom of a deep crater that had formed when the ground cracked from the force of the explosion and his counter. The sheer magnitude of the blast was enough to completely transform what was once a forest into a barren wasteland. Ghost stood calmly, watching Suna still alive and intact after the sequence, a testament to the skills of an elite. Though he would not live long, Suna now knows a secret that no one in this world knows: Ghost's age. Why did he tell Suna his age though? Because no one in this world can save Suna today. Ghost simply walked up to him into the crater, entirely unharmed and untouched throughout the battle. He looked at the man lying weakly. At this moment, a bunch of Kiri Shinobis are coming here, including Mei Terumi. Ghost slowly raised his sword in front of Suna. I have lived a lot of lives, played lots of characters, telling lies throughout my entire life while wearing thousands of faces. I have done things you cannot even begin to fathom. fought battles, and taken missions so frantic where it seems like everything is lost, all the while destroying lives and bringing despair to people I choose to be near. Tsuna didn't respond, or rather he couldn't respond. He is way too injured already. The wounds on his body are fatal, and yet Ghost was still unharmed. Not even one scratch, not a single line. But he still glared at the assassin in front of him. He might die today, but he will not lose. Not to a guy he lost May to. You cannot beat me. You could have never beaten me. Even if we fight till the end of this world itself, it won't do anything but waste your time. But to think even now, you are trying to force your will on me with your eyes. Ghost's fake eyes remained expressionless. Why? Because you hate me. Because I took away the love of your life. I don't give a shit about you or her. However, in all of this nonsense, you are right about one thing. She deserves better than a man who isn't worthy of being called a human. I hope your death can tell her that Tsuna was speechless. Did this man? He lowered the sword, killing the man and piercing Tsuna's heart. If it was before, he would burn their body and disappear only after removing his tracks. He did not do so for the first time. He never intended to approach Mei Terumi since the very start. He didn't even know what was going on in this locked nation. His only purpose in showing off a bit of his limitless chakra was just so that Mizuki could sense it and send someone to recruit him under his cover. But once she arrived, the plan failed. He didn't know she wasn't working for Mizuki at that time, but was a rebel instead. But even after all that, it made no difference to him in any way, though things changed somewhere along the way. Otherwise, with his capabilities and going by his record, he would have already bedded her by now, and even killed her when she was of no use anymore. Unknown to anyone, however, her ill-fated relationship with him and his fated betrayal will make a naive princess like Mei into someone who will lead the rebellion to victory. She will become crooked and vicious, just like him. One day she will realize that this is a world where all men and women are guilty of crimes so heinous they can never be redeemed by anyone. But not everyone gets punished. The more you fight, the harder it becomes to survive, and the longer you live, the more you realize that the only thing truly exists in this reality are merely pain, suffering, and futility. One day, she will unite one of the 5 most powerful village in the whole world, Kurigaka no Sato. As the legendary 5th Mizuki in the distance, Ghost felt the presence of reinforcements coming from Kurigaka. They were scavengers coming to extract whatever information they could from the aftermath of the battle. Though he could choose to leave little to no evidence behind, Ghost wanted Mei to see what would happen to her if she continued to be with him. He is not a man to make a family with. He is a monster from inside and out. As the smoke cleared entirely, Ghost was no longer present. Shinobi from Kurigaka began their hunt, searching every inch of the battlefield for the slightest bit of information. Mei stood there, staring at the head of her friend, Tsuna, his body lying inside the cracked dry ground, his blood dripping down his mouth. Her eyes teared as she watched him lying there, motionless. No life in his eyes. Not a single ounce of spirit was left within his body. She knew that he was dead, a corpse just like the rest of them. Mei clenched her fists as tears flowed down her face. The pain she felt was indescribable. Tsuna has been her friend since they were kids. She knew his feelings. But she didn't feel the same way. She wanted him to confess so that she could reject him and allow him to move on. She didn't want him to suffer because of her, but he never did, and she hated him for that fact. She closed her eyes as her fists tightened even further. Her eyes burned from anger and desperation. She wanted to take this pain out on someone else, to relieve herself from the pain. But she didn't know where she could go to do so. Who was it? She uttered with her fists clenched as her tears fell. She wanted to kill someone. Someone who was responsible for her pain and suffering. Who do you think it was? Mizuki came from behind her with a smile. That night the heavens cried in Kiri. A fitful rain pattered against the grave of Tsuna and Sanka. Only a handful attended the funeral of those 2 remarkable shinobis of Kiri, both dead by a single demon. An assassin who only goes by a single word, Ghost. Mei was not one of them. On a beautiful cliff covered with verdure stood somewhere within the village where many natives comes to gather wood or fruits. The view from that place is one of the most marvelous spectacles in the entire nation. The cliff was bare that night, and the wind had carried the rain far away. She drinks wine, eats beef, and is all alone as she gazes at the great river of Kiri. Ghost appeared far behind her out of nowhere like the shadow of death. His eyes, similar to twin orbs of darkness, stare at her back for a long time. Her face lit with a smile for some reason as she remembers their past. But her lips are cold in a peculiar way, as though about to say something. He looked closely at her as her smile fades away into an expression that can only be described as crying. He stayed behind for as long as possible, before he vanished into the thick mist as silently as he came. She cries the whole night, not sleeping even once before falling unconscious. The next morning she awoke early and left without seeing anyone else. For the first time in ages, she went to Mizuki's tower to meet the bane of her existence, Yugura Karatachi. That night after returning home, Mei's face was a bit brimming with anger and despair. Their killer is living in this house, with her, for an entire year. Her dream to be with him while living in an era of peace shattered to pieces when she found out who really killed Tsuna and Sanka. She stared at the ceiling thinking of all the ways she might kill this ghost. What's the matter? Why are you so angry? Here, I was making tea for myself. You can have some if you're feeling cold. Razel brought a cup of tea to Mei. She turned around and directly brushed it with her hand and flipped the water cup out. The hot tea poured onto his face. Crack! The cup shattered and fell on Razel's forehead. Razel's forehead got burned. It should have been extremely painful for an ordinary person, but to him, it didn't matter. His forehead was still red and swollen at a speed visible to the naked eye. I am sorry. I was thinking of something else and didn't see you there. Are you okay? He wipes his face with a dry cloth. It's okay. It's just a scald. It will be fine in 2 days, Razel said with a smile. Don't be angry. Yeah, she said with a forced smile as she calmed a bit. She can't do it. She can't let him figure her out. Not now. That's good, otherwise you will grow old sooner. Razel turned and walked towards the bathroom, talking as he walked. You punk, she said as Razel entered the bathroom and closed the door. Seeing Razel go into the bathroom, Mei could not help but put her smile down. Why? Just why? She uttered. As Mizuki earlier said, Ghost needs to be taken down immediately. If this continues, the entire Kiri shall perish. She turned around and left. Inside the bathroom, Razel leaned on the bathroom wall, sensing her presence and the emotions that she was feeling. He stares at the walls with blank eyes. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on the snow. When you wake up in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and weep. He then smiled sadly and looked back at the bathroom door. For a heart that lets nothing in and has nothing to give, he finished his poem and closed his eyes for a moment before leaving the bathroom. After Mei went to sleep, Razel knew that this would be his very last night here. Mizuki's men are around the house. Mei was awake too. Her men monitor his every action. But how could they? There is no person alive in this world who could monitor him without him noticing. Making sure that his clone is in everyone's sight. He sits in front of the mirror, removing the fake skin and the fake hair on his body, as he slowly disfigures his real face, placing scars all over his face with a knife, making it irrecognizable. It was painful, but what he was about to do would be 100 times worse. After an hour or so, a hideous face, made of flesh and blood, appeared in front of the mirror. He did the same with his body as he takes the highly poisonous pill that would damage his voice and change the color of his eyes. After shaving his hair to make himself go bald, Razel was ready for tomorrow. He put the makeup over once again. The next day before departure, Terumi Mei proposed the idea of going out for a walk. Razel smiled and nodded with a bit of a blush. She looked at him with complicated eyes. He held her hand through the entire walk. She let him do that, because they both knew this would be the last time. Along the way, both of them kept strangely silent and walked aimlessly on the street. Although the streets are hustling and bustling, and people come and go, Mei and Razel did not reply to anyone. They just kept walking. Mei's hands were no longer as soft and smooth as they were in the past. These are the hands similar to his, the palms of a killer. The two of them kept walking like this, making a circle around the entire Kiri, and ending their journey on a cliff with a heavenly view. There they gazed at the vast ocean of water for a long time. Before coming here, he already sensed everyone around him. He is surrounded but didn't care. He just wanted to stay in this place as long as possible, saying nothing, fearing that this moment will end once and for all. Mei does not speak either. She just held his hand tight, looking at the river with complicated eyes. He was ready for today. It was a farewell that could not be repeated as he worked hard to imprint Mei's appearance in his mind, the woman he could never forget. After a long silence, Terumi Mei finally spoke. This is where Tsuna and I first met. This hill is the most beautiful place in the entire Kiri. She paused for a while then continued. He always liked this place. He looked into Mei's eyes. I don't understand, he said with a smile. I know who you are, Ghost of Konoha, she said with pain apparent. You killed Tsuna and Sanka. I know. Razel was startled and then just laughed frustratingly. Damn, I thought I was exposed because you were acting weird, but still hoped that I could use you further. Very well. It's time I let go of this character anyway. He turned towards her with a mocking smile. What do you want to hear, princess? Yes, I had my orders, and I played my part. Charming and seducing a naive girl like you was quite easy actually. I betted far more difficult woman than you are. Before I forget, I should thank you really. Because of you I was able to enter Kiri with relative ease, and accomplish my mission without raising much of an alarm. She took a deep breath. He is right. He managed to enter Kiri, and do so much is because of her. She was the one who was responsible for their death. Well, I was done with my job anyway. It was already my time to move on. And yes, I killed those pathetic guys called Tsuna and Sanka among a few others. Just like I was about to kill you too. He laughed mockingly while looking at her pitiful self. Disdain was apparent in his eyes. She just closed her eyes and opened them soon enough. She looked into his eyes and made her decision right there as she came in front of surprised and stunned Razel. Her lips are close to his face. She just moved her head a little, and his lips touched hers. And after 5-second pin-drop silence, he took her upper lip between his lips, and she took his lower lip between her lips at that time. He closed his eyes. Chakra flared as she stabbed his guts. He roughly separated her as he vomited blood with a bloody jaw. The chakra-embedded knife has dug deep inside. He stumbled a few steps back only to have countless shadows coming and immediately putting him in chakra-sealing chains. Good job, Mizukichi came in smiling as he stopped by Mei's side. She saw him dying. She did not shed any tears. Her lips were stained red and her heart was still beating hard in her chest. Stabbed Razel on the other hand was forced to kneel. His skin was torn, his hair taken off, the lenses off. His clothes were ripped apart. What came in front shocked everyone, a body, and a face covered in scars all around, making it near impossible to see beyond this horrible ugly thing. The marks are fresh, and Ambu said. Mizukichi smirked. You disfigured your face and body to this extent. I must say I am quite impressed by your tenacity. Mizukichi turned around. Kill him, Aoi Gebetsu. The head captain of Ambu stared at the man. Why? He can give us a lot of information. It's a luck that such a character is in our hand. What if he escapes? We are talking about him after all from our prison. Aoi Gebetsu smirked. Is that even possible? Very well. Get him to prison then. Interrogate him. Do not, I repeat, do not get the chains off his body at any cost. Increase the protection around the prison. Mizukichi ordered. Yes, halfway between the islands, a small transport ship struggled in the open sea. Grey water hammered into its rounded hull, pushing foam onto the exposed deck at the front of the ship. Beaten and bloody, Ghost braced himself against the biting wind by gripping the chains binding him, his knuckles white on the glistening steel. Despite the darkening clouds, the distant outline of a walled castle could be seen clearly looming on the edge of a precipice. Once they crossed the barrier, Ghost's senses were overwhelmed by the lives he sensed so suddenly. The prison of Kurigaka. Not only it was hidden in the most secured location of Kiri, there was also a barrier that prevents senses to sense anything beyond it. Of course, Byakugan might be the only thing in this world that can see this majestic palace past the barrier. Ghost opened his bruised eye to see the majestic castle. The ship dipped on the other edge of a swell, and his stomach twisted, but not from seasickness. The blood from his torso keeps flowing, with some salt water touching it, making it even more painful than it already was. As they approached the island, the jagged rock formations that protruded from the water like filed teeth became more densely packed. They were forced to skirt along the rapid currents that wound in tight walls around the rocks. Alongside them, another transport ship threaded through the maze. Officially, it had been designated for protection, while the ship Ghost was carried was especially emptied, and was filled with Kiri elites just because of him. The lurking ship remained ambiguous, its pale shape resembling the movements of a massive sea creature bobbing in the water. Ghost took a single look at the ship, and with one glance at the creeping shoreline, he lowered his head. How's the fresh air? One of the other Kirinin asked. Ghost didn't reply. He couldn't reply. Make sure it's comfortable. It might be the very last time after all. The Kirinin chuckled and went in. Sure is unlucky that we drew guard duty on him. Huh? Another said after seeing the Kirinin coming in, shaking his head. What's the problem? As long as he is in those chains. He is weaker than a wet dog. Not to mention that he leaking blood for over 2 hours now. He is weak as hell. We only gave him a basic treatment so that he does not die. And what if those chains are taken off? The youngest of them asked. Then all of us will die, another Ambu said as he came in. We won't even be able to see his face when he will kill us. Why? You afraid now? Why not just kill him? He is a veteran anyway. How much do you think he will speak during the torture? Another said. Not to mention, there is a possibility of him escaping. Who said there is a possibility to escape? There is no escape from this prison, the Ambu responded icily. And anyway, no one gave you permission to talk. The guard next to the Kirinin smacked the back of his head. He's right. Shut your trap. The Kirinin shrugged, apparently unaffected by the reprimand. Nonetheless, he remained silent. Go and whip him. He must not be in moving condition when we reach the prison. Hi, at last, Ghost's misery and his screams were alleviated when the ship came into port at the island's only harbor, a narrow notch between two cliffs. There was a delay as the other transport ship docked first, and an iron box was removed from the hull. A few escort guards carried the cage up the steep path that zigzagged along the cliff's face. Only when they disappeared over the rim of the precipice were the prisoner and the guards from Kurigaka allowed to disembark. They marched along a narrow dirt road that led directly from the cliffs to reach the base of the castle. Emaciated black pines lined the path on either side, bisecting a spreading plain of thick foliage. Beneath the dark vines, the unripened pale green husks of heart-shaped seed pods peered out like dull eyes. Demon's lanterns, the namesake of the castle itself, Large wooden gates carved with the symbol of the great village hidden in the mist swung open once they reached the top of the step ramp. 3 white circles had been painted into the dust inside the gate, and the prisoner was made to stand inside them. While the Kiri nin waited close by in, the 2 alleged Anbu nin waited side by side. The temperature inside the castle was noticeably cooler than outside. Their breaths formed clouds of steam, and flakes of snow swept down from the dark clouds that perpetually swirled above the prison. 6 guards in green uniforms stood at attention behind 2 figures. One was an old man with a gaunt face and sunken eyes. His pale skin was blotchy, and his white beard grew in patches. Next to him was a young teenage girl, less than 18 years old, with bright emerald eyes and dark, curly brown hair. Her name was Mei Terumi. "Halt!" one of the guards called out, even though they had already halted. The young woman stepped forward, holding 2 fingers in front of her chest to gather her chakra. Kaiten. Heavenly prison. She slammed her palm into the center of Razel's torso. Lines of fire spread from her fingers and looped over his chest and shoulders, leaving indelible dark squares imprinted on his skin. Once the technique was in place, the guards removed the shackles. Ghost faltered and fell, only to be caught by her. The old man stirred, folding his hands over the cane he used to prop himself up. He couldn't have been past his late 50s, but seemed much older due to the clearly poor condition of his health. "I heard that seals do not work on him," he began, given his prowess. "It's best suited to put him in prison shackles immediately." "No need," she said. "Terumi-sama, that is not how I said there is no need," she said sternly, looking at the old man. "I understand, Terumi-sama." The old man bowed down. She pushes the half-dead man towards the guards. "Do your routine, wait. I want to tell him something," the old man said as he looked at Mei. She nodded. "Ghost of Konoha, I know your deeds, your legends out there, but know that any thought of escape is futile." The old man continued, "The prison chains will be embedded into you to bind your chakra. There is also a formation surrounding the prison. If you try to mold ninjutsu, you will be unable to do so. If you try to leave the castle premises, you will be incinerated." His piercing gaze was stern. "Even with your infamous immunity to everything, you will still get burned. Do not even try to attempt it. We have a medical ward, but 3rd-degree burns are difficult to treat and recovery is painful. Not to mention, but as you can probably tell, the castle is under an ice barrier. Without chakra, you will die within an hour." He glanced at the guards. "This applies to you guys too." He turned back to the ghost. "If we don't willingly warm you up, you shall die. Remember that before attempting to escape. Take him." Razel didn't care about the protection they placed in here. His half-dead bruised eyes glanced at her before he was dragged away. Mei watched the squad of Anbu nin leave with Ghost. She felt a wave of emotions for the man who used her for his liking. A week went by since that incident. Mei's eyes remained motionless as she walked past Ghost and the interrogator. "What's your mission in Kiri?" The warden asks. Ghost didn't say anything, and a shockwave of pain hit him. "You fucker," he cried out loud as the pain intensified. The wound that had been carved into his side not so long ago reopened, and blood spilled out. "Ask something else," the warden said to the investigator. "What are the security details of Konoha?" He didn't say anything defiantly. The chains hold him down as large men beat and whipped his face and body. And as Ghost continued to stay silent, the more intense the pain got. They began by pulling each fingernail every time Ghost stayed silent till they left him with no fingernails. They continued with their 3rd-degree torture. After they had finished, Ghost's body was already covered in all sorts of torture marks. He was barely conscious enough. He had a broken arm, a broken rib, and numerous other injuries decorating his body. They laughed and pissed at him as they humiliate him before letting him fall unconscious from the wounds. It only got worse from there. They would do it daily. The same procedure over and over again. His 3rd leg was cut as he was made impotent. His eyes were taken off as well. He even has scars and burn marks all over his face and body. It wouldn't be a lie to say that this is hell on earth. After a while, he lost track of how long he had been there. 1 month later, it was still the same. Ghost could feel Mei's eyes boring into the back of his skull, feeling her emotions. After all, they could take everything from him, but his sensory skills. Nonetheless, due to repeated failures to get any information out of him, they decided to go for another route. That day, under full preparation, his half-dead body was left without chains. After being transported from the ship, the iron box had been set down on a stone floor somewhere in front of him. At least, that was what he had heard from the sound of metal scraping over the floor. It's hard to see anything after his eyes were ripped off of their sockets. "Release," a commanding voice spoke. The 4 walls of the iron box split along their seams, and the metal squares were pushed outwards, suspended in the air by the Fukinjutsu's purple energy. They shrank into small cubes before spiraling around each other and disappearing entirely. At the same time, chains of ice materialized in the air around Ghost. They enveloped his chest and torso, binding his arms to his sides as they layered on top of each other. Friction built as the chains tightened, and the ice began to glow as it chattered against itself. Reaching a breaking point, the chains shattered completely, bursting into shimmering particles that floated to the ground and disappeared. The bitter cold was left in their wake. It spread across Ghost's skin before seeping into his core, penetrating to his bones. The cold only became more severe. It was intolerable. The pain was out of this world. "Ghost," the warden addressed him. "I heard you are a legend out there. Your name itself brings fear into people's hearts. However, I'm quite curious. How did someone like you even get caught?" Ghost's body twitches under pain, as he was unable to say anything. The warden chuckled. "All right, we will have lots of time to talk. Just for your information, no one besides the wardens know about this tower's cell." The old man leaned back against the wall as he explained, "and the window can't be seen from the outside. This entire prison is hidden by a genjutsu. Enjoy your full-time torture." After he went out, he left the ghost lying on the ground. His body was shaking continuously. His dark blood-filled sockets trembled in pain. Another month went by quietly, and deep within the underbelly of the prison lies solitary confinement. The section of the prison where criminals are too dangerous to be kept with other prisoners is locked away, few of which ever see the day of light. Each of them is dangerous in its own right, but there's one that stands above them all. At the very end of the long hallway is a single cell, one so locked down that it may very well be the most secure cell in the entire prison. Guards often shuddered just looking at the door, knowing about the one that lies within. Inside stands a woman with long, brown hair, watching a man encased in numerous spikes that have impaled his arms, head, and chest on top of numerous heavy chains strewn across the room that link the spikes together. His arms and legs are held tightly shut with massive steel bindings that would take Herculean strength to pry open, and have been sealed with a genjutsu that prevents them from being opened by chakra-based methods. Razel, the auburn-hair woman, talked to him after a month. "Or maybe I should call you by your given codename now." Ghost just weakly stood there, supported by the heavy chains all over him. His head was already down. Even though he could not see anymore, he could still sense and hear May's voice talking to him. "No matter how hard we try, we are unable to gain anything from you. And thus, it is decided by the Elder Council that you shall be executed by tomorrow morning. If we are to suffer another failure tonight," she said monotonously. He remained silent, his lips no longer moving. If it wasn't for his weak breath, he would appear completely dead. The moment she left, he could sense his opportunity as he finally opened his mouth after so long. It was painful to speak, his voice was hoarse, but he barely managed to utter a single word. "Start. What are you muttering about?" The torturer came in as another torture session began. Ghost weakly trembled and took short, quick breaths as he was stabbed in his cheeks to pierce inside his mouth and come out of another side, along with a huge amount of mass and blood. A few hours later, Aoi Gebetsu, the head captain of Anbu and the man who was responsible for making Mizukage, sent Ghost here instead of killing him, indirectly saving his life. Inside the dungeon, feeling the presence of Aoi Gebetsu, Ghost weakly curled his lips up. Perhaps people forgot who he is or what he does, and maybe that's why they never suspected it. Ghost is an infiltration expert that is hunting for an answer. You see, finding out about the situation at Curie was just one part of his mission. His original mission was to find out about Akatsuki, and his next clue can only be found here. So he did what he does best, orchestrating a play. And the one who made it all possible was none other than Mei Terumi herself. Ghost hummed a haunting tune as his voice echoed within the torture cell. And that's the end of this episode. The series will continue in the next part. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share, and comment down below. This really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching. We'll be seeing you in the next part. Check out my other anime videos.